Hi, Deb. How are you?
Hey, Annick, how are you? It's great to see you.
Same here, same here. It's finally good to be able to connect. It's been a little while since we've last spoken.
Yes, it has.
So I am so curious to know if you could kind of let everybody know a little bit about your background. You and I have known each other for probably about 5 or 6 years at this point, which is wild.
It
and
is
so,
wild.
and
Time
so,
flies.
and so much has happened in between that time. So if you could maybe kind of give an overview to everybody, like what your background is and how you ended up where you are today.
Sure. So today I'll do a reverse engineer. So
Okay.
today I am the founder of the Launch Lab for women entrepreneurs, for women who are leaving the corporate workforce to start their own business as a coach, consultant, trainer, author, speaker, and they have a lot of great knowledge and great enthusiasm for solving a problem in the world, but they don't necessarily know how to launch a business, especially a business that makes money. And as I looked back at my 20-year corporate career before I left to launch my own business, I was a launch expert. I spent 20 years launching
Mm,
services for a Fortune 1000 company, and in some cases, I would manage those launches, new program launches for the first couple years, and generate a lot of revenue. And I became known as having the secret sauce for how to develop products and services that sold.
mm-hmm.
And so I realized that that was a big gap in the market, and a lot of women were getting certified, taking online courses, creating their methodology, and building out their websites and sales and marketing funnels, and then wondering why no one showed up
Yeah.
to buy their services. And it broke my heart, really, that all they needed was a little bit more guidance on how to test their concept and how to package and price their services and create a money making business model. And then they'd be set. They'd have that foundation on which to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my favorite passion of the hour. That's what's happening in the next few weeks is the launch lab opens its doors for the first time.
Oh, that's excellent. So, but how did you get from the launch from where you were working in corporate to this doing this launch lab and also working with people online?
Yeah, so that was a whole big shift, and it wasn't easy.
Right.
I have a belief that I can move mountains and I can do anything I want to. So that kind of was what I grew up with as a child, like, oh, I can do anything I want to do. And so when it came that I became super burnt out in the corporate world, I had launched this program. It grew to $32 million in 2.5 years. I had
Wow.
53 people working for me. At the same time, my marriage fell apart. I hit menopause. I was traveling 1 week out of every four, a week a month I was on the road or on an airplane. And I was burnt out and I was just tired and I didn't know what to do next.
Hmm.
And I know I'm not alone here because there's a lot of women who hit burnout like
Mm-hmm.
mid to late career and what's next? And so I started searching and I realized that I had been on autopilot for so long and go, 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 go that I had no idea who I was or what I wanted.
So when you come to a point like that, because I think that probably all of us at some point come to a point where either something that we're doing is not necessarily working for us. Do you feel when you're making a shift like this, and especially with the women that you work with, do you feel like there's this crash and burn where almost everything needs to be just totally destroyed in your life to rebuild? Or do you find that you could have an idea, like you knew that things weren't going well, you were going through all these different things, and that you can gracefully exit or change what you're doing in life?
Yeah, I think it could be either way.
Mm-hmm.
I don't find that everyone does a crash and burn. I mean, certainly there are a lot of women who are feeling like they're aged out of the workforce. So there are a lot of women in their 50s who are looking to continue to be vital, continuing to keep their energies up and their minds working and delivering something of value to the world well into their 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So that's part of it. And there are also those who hit a career stall. Maybe the company was acquired or I'm no longer happy with what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And there's something that I've noticed, and that is that the older you get, the less confidence you have,
Really?
which is interesting, right? So
It
the
is.
more they question themselves or doubt themselves, 30-year-olds, and it's a very different conversation with someone in their 30s and 40s than in their 50s or 60s.
Mm-hmm.
So, couple things, it's that there's not that much time left. Secondly, they start to question their own abilities. And so it's really the latter group that I've spent the most time with is really those women in their late 40s or in their 50s who want to create something that makes them feel good, that gives them confidence, that also brings in income for the next 10, 15, 20 years.
Mm. So, how do you work with these women to get this idea or to form an idea to come to fruition to start a business?
Well, typically someone sees a problem, right? So
Mm-hmm.
there's something wrong, whether that is with all the big data that's happening now, that corporations are making decisions based on data. And so they're kind of taking the people out of the equation and analyzing behaviors and putting together protocols of, well, to be successful, you do these 7 things in this particular period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And then based on our data, we know that we'll be successful and we'll make the revenue. But what it's done is taking the people out of the picture. So one of my clients said, there's something wrong with sales. Sales isn't connecting
Mm-hmm.
with their salespeople,
Mm-hmm.
and they're not engaging them in what drives them and what they want to succeed. And it's all about the numbers. And so there's no coaching in the sales process anymore. There's only, a whipping of like, you haven't done all your numbers. You haven't made 20 phone calls today or
Right.
things like that. And then when she went out and started testing that idea, with sales leaders, it was like falling flat because
Right.
what did they want? They want the numbers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So sometimes you have to tweak your concept and you have to find your tribe. So it might be that the way you're positioning it needs to be changed slightly. It might mean that, well, those sales leaders aren't your ideal clients, but maybe you'll find an ideal client looking for something else, looking somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So it's taking that idea. And if you don't know what your passion is, then, that's a precursor to joining the Launch Lab, is that you actually have a vision and a purpose. And Simon Sinek has great tools of find your why,
Mm-hmm.
start with why. For me, it was meditation. It was just going on silent meditation retreats and looking deep inside to find out, where is this burning desire in my soul and where do I
Mm.
want to contribute?
You and I have worked together with a lot of women on the online space, whether they've been uh, people that we've coached or we've been coached, or like ourselves, people that are both on within the industry. But I know that you and I've had some offline conversations about this. Is that there you can have an idea, like you kind of come to this idea, what we were just talking about, to you know what you want to do. Maybe not specifically, you have an idea, but how do you translate that into a business? And I think your launch lab goes into this. But one of the biggest pain points, I would say, and I'd love to hear what your vision is or on this, is that they can't always articulate what they want, or they have just like an idea, like I want to be a coach, but what does that mean? So can you maybe talk a little bit to that?
Sure. So the mistake, let me talk about it from the mistake that people make.
Okay.
So the mistake that people make, say, I want to coach other people. I'm a natural coach at work. So they get their coaching certification. They may even be certified in a methodology. And then they need to learn how to launch a business. And so there are a lot of marketing gurus out there that will, teach you how to build $1 million consulting practice. And so they chase bright shiny objects, right? So I don't know how to do this. So the prevailing thought is, holy crap, I've taken this leap and I don't know how to make this work.
Mm.
So there's an entire universe of coaches, online classes, and everything that you can take to learn how to market yourself. So that's where people tend to go. First thing they do is put up a website, take a marketing course, build a funnel.
Yeah.
But the piece that was missing and the piece that broke my heart was they didn't have a tested and vetted idea for what their business concept was, who their ideal client is, how to
Mm-hmm.
package and price their services, and how to build a scalable business model that will get to your revenue goal. So one of the things that people will say is, um, I'll always ask people, how much money do you want to make this year? And they'll say, well, at least $250,000. And I'll ask, so what's the path to the cash? And they say, what do you mean? I said, well, how are you going to hit $250,000? What's the average value of your a single client? How many clients do you need in the course of a year to hit that number? And what are you offering? So we
Mm-hmm.
kind of reverse engineer the revenue goal. If that's not in place, you've got no business building a website and building out a
Yeah.
marketing funnel because you don't have a business. You don't have a business model.
And so you must see it all the time that people are just wasting their money.
Tens of
Yeah.
thousands of dollars, upwards, the average is probably upwards of $50,000
Wow.
invested in launching a business. And they're drawing down their 401ks, they're drawing
Mm-hmm.
down their retirement savings, or maybe they sold their house and they're living off the proceeds of that sale. So this is not small money.
Mm-hmm. So what would be your recommendation for somebody who is going through this first phase of figuring it out to vet out what their business should be or how they are going to make the path to money?
Yeah. So I truly believe in coaching,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I've had a coach every year since I launched my business almost 7 years ago now. And but pick your coaches wisely. Pick people who fill a gap in what you need,
Mm.
and make sure that you have an understanding of what the overall launch process is, so that you can bring in people that you need at the right phase in the process. So for me right now, I've grown my business. I've kind of tapped out in what I can earn just in my own coaching practice. So I'm now building a leverage business model and taking my training and offering it in different ways to different audiences so that I can scale and I can take vacations and I don't
Yeah.
have to work all the time.
Yeah, that sounds
So,
good.
yeah, sounds good, right?
So what do you see as other pain points for women who are going through this?
Yeah, and there is, and you mentioned the technology component
Yes.
to it. And I don't want to gloss over that because it is significant. If you're coming from the corporate world, you had people in place who managed all that for you. And when you do launch your own business, you have to put your own technology infrastructure in place.
Mm-hmm.
You need to have technology that you can cultivate an audience, cultivate a community, communicate with them regularly. You need a way for people to access your services. I love, I had one of the recent Empowering Billion Women by 2020 meetings. It's a group I run in New York. We had a speaker who wrote the book, The Replaceable Founder.
Hmm.
And it was so fascinating. His company is called Less Doing. His name is Ari Meisel. And it was so fascinating to have him there because if you put the right technology in place to automate your processes,
Mm-hmm.
you free up so much more of your time to leverage your business. But for most of us, we didn't grow up in the digital age. I'm a digital immigrant.
Yeah.
I'm not a digital native. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I made a joke the other day. I was leading a panel with some very high some CEOs who from technology companies, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I remember having a car phone, right? That
Yeah.
was a
Yeah.
physical phone
Yeah.
that resided in my car when I was in sales. It was a big clunky thing,
Mm-hmm.
before cell phones. And so for those of us who don't have a natural proclivity or we didn't grow up with technology, hiring someone who knows the ropes is really important there because it is technology that runs your business so that you can do what you do best, which is deliver your transformation to the world.
Mm-hmm. I want to circle a little bit back with that into the money aspect. One of the things you and I have discussed a lot is seeing how people either again misuse their funds, like they run out of money, they don't really allocate or know that this is actually going to take a lot of money, like the online what are you paying for if you're working online, and yet there are all these costs that are associated with actually having an online business or working virtually. So what do you think is like a kind of a good way for people to like if they're going to invest on this, and you're talking about also like having other people do the digital work, you're also planning, you need to leave room for creativity. Where should people initially invest their money in building their business?
You invest in technology that's cultivating client relationships. So, having the basic components. I'm not saying buy a big CRM system. Most new entrepreneurs don't need a big hefty CRM system,
Mm-hmm.
but you do need a way where you can capture leads, right? And
Yeah.
you can communicate with those prospects so that you can cultivate them and create a relationship where they eventually convert. And then you want to have your product architecture so that they convert at there's a path for them, right? So
Mm-hmm.
your business model gives them a path where they start at a very maybe a low or no cost offering and then mature up the scale. So you need a CRM system, right? So you need an email system, the ability to tag and segment your offerings. You need a website that has certain functionality, right? So you
Mm-hmm.
invest in that and um, creating a strategy around that where you have something interesting that people want to buy. So you don't want to have a website that just says enter your email for our newsletter,
Right.
you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So what I learned, I went to a Tony Robbins event a few years ago and there was someone up there talking about how marketing has changed. And 20 years ago, it took 4 contacts with your brand to get someone to convert into a client. Now it takes 16 connections, what I call micro conversions, right? So a micro
Yeah.
conversion could be something like signing up for a one-on-one conversation with you, or opening an email, or attending a webinar, or downloading an ebook. So you want to give people many opportunities, or watching a Facebook Live. So
Mm-hmm.
if you think about it, to engage your audience, you have to give them 16 different ways to engage with you so that you're top of mind. And, if you're in the business world, LinkedIn is a great vehicle right now, Facebook for certain types of businesses and
Mm-hmm.
to reach certain ideal clients. So it's a combination of understanding where your market is and how best to reach them, and the minimum viable technology infrastructure that will get you to where you want to go. Because you don't want to invest heavily up front. You just want the minimum that you need in order to be successful.
For you, what have you seen personally? Is it when you're doing all the touches with your clients, are you where are you seeing the most bang for your buck? Or not even money, just is it like in person through your videos? You do a lot of video work.
I do a lot of video
Yeah.
work, but actually, I doubled my business last year by getting scrappy and getting on the road,
So,
attending, old
yeah.
school networking
Yeah.
events, offering to speak at industry associations or women's groups and things like that. Because if you can, and this is another key component to marketing yourself, is to create a compelling money making talk
Right.
so that you are clearly talking to your ideal client. So your messaging is so important, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that you have your identified ideal client, you understand their problems, you understand how they think, so that you're locking. You have the Vulcan mind meld right
Yeah.
away, and then you show them a path out of their pain.
Why do you think people miss that step so much?
Because we're all about the technology, and I think we're maybe slightly introverted, and
Yeah.
it's easier to sit in your chair and do a webinar. And I think people are getting webinared out.
Yeah.
I think webinars are still highly effective for engaging your audience. I think you have to work really hard at making that an engaging experience for people. But there's nothing that beats face to face. They like to see you, hear you. And so here's a tip.
I'm all
Every
ears.
day, every day, I wake up and I ask myself, how can I be seen and heard today?
Ooh, that's powerful. How can I be seen and heard today?
When I'm seen and heard, my ideal clients resonate with my message and I make money.
Wow. Has your message changed over the time that you started your business until now?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started out as a health coach.
Wow.
And I was helping people live, healthier lives by integrating body, mind, and spirit. And then I realized as I was private coaching people to improve their whole health and well being, that most of the issues that people were facing were psychological. They were around
Mm.
self sabotage and limiting beliefs. And so I started focusing on those areas. Then I noticed that half of my clients were divorced. And so I developed a spin off of that health program and started gearing it to women who were divorced and rebuilding their lives. And then as I took more and more classes, learning all these online techniques for marketing and everything else, that's when I noticed that 75% of the women entrepreneurs around me were failing and they were really struggling.
Mm.
And then I realized, it was an epiphany one day as I was journaling, that Deb, you've launched products for 25 years. You could help them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
take the mindset piece, right? So the mindset piece that I'd been working on with the life coaching, take the business launch experience and meld them together. And like everything else, I tested it, right? So I tested the idea
Mm-hmm.
and everyone said, wow, wish we had that when I first started.
Yeah.
And
Myself included.
yes, I
Yeah.
remember that. Thank you
Yeah.
for that validation. And so then the concept for the Launch Lab was born.
Right.
And so I spent some time testing it out and refining it. And now it's a real live accelerator for women who are starting out and want to get there and develop that foundational infrastructure of who am I, what do I offer, who do I serve, and how do I price it, and how do I make money? And they want to do it quickly.
So, just to get into the details a little bit about that, what's the structure of it for somebody taking it, getting into the launch lab? Like, is it classes? Is it, how does it all work?
Mm-hmm. It's a 10-week accelerator, and there are 5 separate modules on how to launch a successful business. And there's online training as well as one-on-one coaching
Mm.
and weekly group get-togethers. So the group meetings are both mentoring and support for Q&A or masterminding.
Okay.
So what I realized was in a lot of these online courses is that there wasn't enough hands-on support. There wasn't
Mm.
enough actual coaching, and there wasn't enough community beyond a Facebook group. And what people really enjoy is being in a live room together. And now we have technology that enables us to be in a live room together and to record it and to share. So the Launch Lab modules are discovering your true mission and purpose. So that's module 1. Module 2 is exploring your profit opportunities. So we look for evidence in the outside world that this is a good idea. And then module 3 is to research your concept viability. So this is where you engage with your potential clients and you share what your idea is and you get input from them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you find out right away, is this something that someone is actually going to buy? And we also start talking about having money conversations with ideal clients because, let's just get upfront about it. If you're not selling, you're not serving. If you can't talk about money
Yeah.
with an ideal client, don't launch a business, right? So
Yeah.
I wrote an article that said either um, get someone else to do it, learn how to do it yourself and get over it, or get a job.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to be able to have money conversations. So we teach you how to have the money conversation and the conversation around value. And then it's not until module 4 where it's about designing your magnetic marketing messages. So unless you do all the research up front and understand how your ideal client frames a problem and what a solution looks like to them, then you're kind of guessing what they're thinking and
Mm-hmm.
what might be a good idea for them. And then module 5 is all about designing the money making model. What is your revenue model? What's your path to the cash? How are you pricing? How many do you need to sell? And does it make sense? Can you
Mm-hmm.
do it?
It's pretty big because personally, you're attesting to everything that I had struggled with for myself personally, going online and creating a business and trying to prove out ideas. And you saw what happened. I tried to prove out an idea that didn't work, and I didn't have a target audience, and it was being perceived in the wrong way. And I wish I had what you had done at the time, because it was painful to go through, where it was get a job. Like, should I just do this? Should I drop? But I'm not seeing success in all these people around me either. So like, where's that missing? So it's pretty cool that you're putting this together, because it is your powerhouse. You've personally have helped me a lot in trying to figure out who my target audience is, and actually having real conversations, not conversations I thought I was having with them, but real conversations on their pain points and what they actually needed.
Right. And the beautiful part about your story too is that actually blended your passion
Yeah.
with a problem that people were having in the market. And, that's the beautiful part about it too. So, yeah, you were one of the stories that broke my heart. And I was like, how can I prevent anyone else? Because
Yeah.
it does a number on your self-esteem and your confidence.
Mm-hmm.
When you muster up all that courage to say, hey, I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to write a book. I'm going to build a funnel. I'm going to build a coaching practice and
Yeah.
a leadership program around this. And then you realize that it's falling flat. It hurts.
Big
It
time.
hurts big time, right? It hurts your heart.
Yeah.
You wonder, maybe I'm not all I'm cracked up to be. The inner mean girl gets fed and she
Yeah.
starts talking and,
Yeah.
taking over. So it's really super important. It's not that you're not good enough. It's not that you don't know how. It's just that there are some basic skills to figure out, how do I talk about this? What does that solution look like?
Mm-hmm.
And how can I make money at it? And
And
so now I'm super excited about your new ideas. I can't wait till they come out.
I'm excited too.
Yay! This
And
podcast being one of them.
and again, thank you so much for your help with it.
Oh, happy to be here. So much
Yeah.
fun.
It's I'm so happy you're putting this out there, because really, when I look at our peers, and there's just been so many people within the time that I've been online, and so many people have just faded away. Like, they never get their wheel spinning, and really barely any traction ever. And it is disheartening to see that. And more of this needs to be discussed. And these, I want to call them like old school techniques of client facing, having conversations, and talking about money. Like, why can we not talk about money? And
Right. What's that about?
I don't
Right?
know. None of us. I mean, I'm going to use the term, like, almost none of us can. Like, or we can in some aspects, but not in others. It's so interesting. It's so interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's about value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And pricing is so tricky because your own personal self-value is so wrapped up in that.
Mm-hmm.
But when you undervalue yourself, you also undervalue your client, because you let them know through your offering that they're not worth very much either.
Really, that's huge.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So pricing is an
Yeah.
interesting, it's an art as much as a science, and an interesting way to go about it. And the great part of being an entrepreneur is you can always test the limits of your value. You can change your prices in every conversation you have and see, where's the limit? Where do I feel uncomfortable? Where is the value proposition not aligned with what I'm charging for this offering? So it's interesting.
So, do you have any advice for people who are starting to do their pricing?
Yes. Yes. So I have 5 don'ts. Don't price on cost plus margin, because you'll tap yourself out and you'll create a ceiling to what you can earn. Don't discount based on what the competition is doing, so that you come in at a lower price point, because a lesser price point will be perceived lesser value. Don't take your corporate salary and figure out an hourly rate, because when you were in the corporate world, you were paid 365 days a year and you had benefits, and there were a lot of guarantees that you don't have now. Let's see, what else? Don't price your services based on what you think other people can afford. And this is just a good emotional boundary, right? So you can never determine value for someone else, right? Only they can determine value for for themselves, because value is really a combination of opportunity cost. What do they lose if they don't address this issue or don't take action?
Mm-hmm.
What have they already invested in solving this problem that hasn't worked? Those are sunk costs. And what's the additional value of actually being able to solve it and reach their goal?
Hmm.
So those are the kind of things that we explore, and it's not esoteric at all. It makes very clear sense once we just like table it out and we start testing it.
Yeah.
And the best thing about it is when people get through this phase, which is module 3, and I call it the belly of the beast, is that they go, wow, that was kind of fun and it wasn't so hard. And then they have their confidence back that, wow, I was making such a big deal about this. There was so much emotional resistance around it and doubt and fear. And once you just like step in and just do it, the other side is so bright and shiny. And typically the people you're testing your ideas with turn out to be your first clients anyway. So there's usually a benefit in having these conversations.
That is so, it's wild. I'd love us, for people to be smiling around money.
Yes, we don't need to smile around money. We need to, be grateful for money and to embrace it.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with women entrepreneurs too, if they're going out for venture funding, they tend to ask for less than the men do.
Well, are they even really asking for money?
Or asking at all. Absolutely. So,
Yeah.
most women don't ask. The reason why Ingrid Vanderveld started Empowering a Billion Women by 2020 is she was Dell's entrepreneur in residence doing the Dell $1 billion fund.
Mm-hmm.
And all these guys were coming up to pitch their businesses, and not a single woman was on stage pitching.
It's mind-blowing to me. I had gone to one of those EBW meetings, and the statistics that were being spoken that women don't ask for money pretty much ever, like I just couldn't, it was so mind-blowing to me. And the more I thought about it and the more conversations I have with other female entrepreneurs, I don't know anybody who's asked for money except for a service, but not to invest in their company.
Yeah, the good news is that there are so many new and innovative models coming out, mostly from women, investing in women.
Yeah.
That now there's so many different opportunities to get funding that are different from the standard VC model, although that still exists. But there are organizations like SheEO and others where you can get grants, you can get loans, you can get awards, and things like that. So it's exciting. We're moving in the right direction.
And I think that, this also, that's why having a coach is so important. Having access to somebody like you who actually has that knowledge, because as one time, one of my colleagues said to me, you don't know what you don't know. When you work with a coach or somebody who enlightens you to say, these are options for you, breaks you out of the singular mindset that you not are even aware is available to you. So that's pretty
also
exciting.
Opens you up to that coach's connections.
Yes.
Right. So once you have a trusted relationship and now you need something else, so I have many sources I can send my clients to who are looking for funding. Many sources I can send them to, when they're ready to explode their branding or their marketing. So, you need trusted and vetted sources for all aspects of your business strategy.
And if your coach is not willing to share, then there's probably a problem with that coaching scenario as well. Because I hear that a lot where people will work with somebody and they're just not feeling like it's a safe environment. They're just being told what to do versus it actually being communal where we're all growing together and uplifting each other. So I think that that's really, surrounding yourself with women who think like you do is very important.
Yeah, and there are no magic bullets and there's no guarantee. Right. So there's no guarantee of success. You may get down this road and find, wow, what I was really passionate about isn't an opportunity. So I got to go back to the drawing board and rethink this. But wouldn't you rather go back to the drawing board and rethink this for an investment that was less than $5,000 than pouring in $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 to get to that point? So that's my other mission is excuse me, to help women use their assets more effectively to get to the answer more quickly.
I'm all for that because, again, as I said, I had to go through that terrible process of spending a lot of money that I didn't need to spend had I had something like this where I would have been able to vet the idea much sooner. So
Right. And
I'm all for
also,
it.
check in on your mindset and your own insecurities. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we're chasing the next course, we're chasing the next credential. I can't tell you how many times I have a conversation with a woman who wants to add more letters after her name.
Mm-hmm.
Do you really need another degree? Do you really need another certification? Do you really need another methodology? Or is this your way of deferring your launch and saying, I'm not ready when it's just, I'm not confident?
Mm-hmm.
So beware of bright, shiny objects. Always call a friend before you sign up for that next $1 million coaching program.
I like that.
Yeah, phone a friend. Call your lifeline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get someone who can, ask you the question. Say, is this really the right next step for you? Is this what you need right now?
Well, and speaking of that, if people were interested in getting into your launch lab, how would they
Mhm.
do so?
You can email me at deb@thegreatdoover.com. That is thegreatdoover.com. And I'd be happy to share more about the Launch Lab.
Oh, wonderful. And as far as social media, where else can everybody reach you?
LinkedIn,
Mm,
almost everywhere.
yeah.
Facebook. On Facebook, I have the Launch Lab for Women Entrepreneurs. So it's a private Facebook group. It's open, it's free. You're happy. I'm happy for you to join the Launch Lab. Free offering, the Launch Lab workshop, I think we call it. And then I'm on Instagram, but don't do too much over there. It's mostly LinkedIn and Facebook.
That's wonderful. Deb, thank you so much. I can't wait to see more and hear more about this course. I've already experienced a lot of it, I should say, just from personally working with you. But to actually be in a group context would just be pretty incredible for any woman who could do it. So good luck.
Thank you. I'm so, so, so excited. I haven't been excited about something like this in a really long time. It's almost like a relaunch. It feels really good.
Oh, that is awesome. And you know that when when you're in your place, your zone of genius, you're just glowing. And I could see that. So that's
Ah,
wonderful.
thanks, Annick. It's been so much fun being here with you today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you, Deb. And I guess we'll talk soon.
Yes, we will.